All right, 7:08, and you are live.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 19:08 with a roll call. Steve McClintock,
Yay.
Brad Smith,
Yay.
Don Peterson,
Yay.
Pete Johnson is absent, and co-chair Hogue, I'm present. Has everybody had a chance to read minutes from the prior meeting?
Yes.
Prior meeting? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, can I get a approval to accept last meeting's minutes?
Make a
I
motion.
make a motion.
Or I'll
Motion,
second.
is that motion Don, second Steve,
Yes.
to accept. Any opposed? And any noes? All in favor?
Aye.
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 So moved. Public comments. I have no public comments. I don't think we have anybody else. Correspondence, I have none. New business. We have Derek Schmidt, who we brought up 2 meetings ago. He's got a Sullivan County license, and I think he's waiting on an Ulster County as well as an Orange. Asked for a exemption for our test because of that, and that he could reciprocate with Greene County. Well, they had found out that Greene County only reciprocates with them per job and not license like we've had with them. So he asked that we could do what we, if we would give him the exemption based on that. I have spoke with the clerk that runs the Sullivan County Licensing Bureau. Mr. Schmidt had a high score on his test when he took it quite a few years ago. Their test is equivalent, if not maybe a little bit greater than ours. And that she said they have never had a complaint against him, and that he evidently does a fair amount of work in Sullivan County. So what is your pleasure on giving him an exemption for the tests, as we've done with other people that meet that?
Yeah.
So I got a motion, is that by Steve, to
Yeah.
give him the exemption?
Yep.
All right. Steve, got a second?
I'll second.
The second, was that Brad or Don?
Don.
Okay, Don, sorry. I have a hard time. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I'm going to abstain from that vote. So that is a 3-0 to 1 and 1 abstention. Moving on, I've got another one. Same thing. Anthony Chiotti, I think it is. This one just came in. I did not speak with a clerk on this one. It is a Sullivan County license. I'm not sure how he scored on the test or anything about him. I would like to have somebody speak with Sullivan County and see how his standings are there. So I don't know, do we want to do a approval pending somebody making contact with Sullivan County and following up on him like we've done with Derek?
What's his intent? I mean,
I don't know. They don't normally, the clerk does not normally ask when they come to do this, so I don't know if he's looking at doing one job, if he's looking at doing in depth. I am not at all aware of this, gentlemen. Like I said, I don't even know. I'd have to go back and look and see when he applied. It was the first of this month, 2/1.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I thought I printed it off.
87.
But
That would, sometimes it'd be nice when some of these guys come in if we did ask that question as to what their intent was, I suppose.
Well, I mean, if he's doing a 4-story light construction, you know, that's a lot of people. And that,
yeah, you know, I don't think that. Well, if the Deed Street project, the other company had bid, and I believe he was the only bidder or the only one that came before they closed bidding to request any licensing.
Now,
I mean, just to not know who,
Schmidt or the other guy? Schmidt did, right?
Yeah, he was the only one. This guy, yeah, because he had spoke that's, you know, what they were wanting to do when he first approached us. And this guy, I don't know, like I said, whether he plans to work here indefinitely or he's looking at bidding something for Corning. I'm not really sure. I don't know. I mean, I guess we could.
Is it possible he's working with Schmidt and they just wanted?
He is not. I did call this evening to ascertain from them, and he said he does not even know who the guy is.
Okay.
He's never heard of him. He got his license, I guess, a few years after him, but he does not. It was not one of his employees because all the guys that are working under him are on his license. And he was not aware of who this guy was. So I guess we can ask him his intent as well. But, you know, and then see what, you know, Sullivan County has to say about him, is what I would say. Well, what's your pleasure on it, gentlemen?
Yeah, well, I'd just be curious of his intent. Personally, and we don't know how he scored, but hopefully he scored well if he's had his license for a number of years. Do we want to check on him?
Well, I would recommend when we do these that if it's not, that we kind of check and see. We've had others that we've checked up on. You know, Mr. Schmidt we checked up on, especially being that this is
magnitude of the job. Yeah, for sure.
And like I said, I don't even know what the job is. If he's even looking to, if he's bidding one job or he's bidding, or he's just like anybody else who wants to just work in this area, or he's trying to tie in with somebody or what, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not sure, to be honest, that has any bearing on this, but I would like to know, you know, whether he has complaints or had complaints against him in Sullivan County, right, or, you know, if he, you know, what his standing is there.
I think, yeah, somehow we need to adjust with the city, with the clerk. I don't know what questions are asked when they come in out of county. As you know, as the one fellow said, Greene County does it job by job, and I know that because I went down there and did one once and reciprocated. With these other ones now, when they when they come in and get their license, my question is, do they have to pay the licensing fee in for their apprentices while they're here working, or do they get in here?
Yes.
On freebie?
No, they have to pay for them, because that was something that I had asked. So anybody that's working under them, or anybody that's on that job site that's working under them,
has a card or whatever.
They have to have a card and pay a fee, just like any of our other licensees that test it out or whatever. They have to do.
Okay, you answered my question on that because I wasn't sure. Okay, that's satisfied with that. Yep.
Because that would, in my opinion, not be fair to anybody else. Exactly. Even if somebody's coming to do a one-time job, that is not fair for everybody who recertifies or, you know, relicense every year and pays fee every year for all their men and, you know, everything else.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That answered my question I had. So.
Anybody else have any other questions on this?
So do we make a motion to take within the month to check this guy out? How do we move forward? How do you want to put it into writing?
Do we want to approve it pending a conversation from Sullivan County? And if it comes back unacceptable, or there was a problem or something, then we'll bring it back to the board. But if everything comes back clear and there's no problem, we'll go ahead. So we don't have to meet again.
Right.
We don't have to meet again,
Right.
before our next regular 3-month meeting.
Right.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
And then we can ask him his intent, whether he chooses to give or not. I'm not sure that we really can or not, but we'll find out.
That's the only other thing. I wondered if it was, like a rights thing or whatever, if they have the right to do that or not. But
I'm not sure, to be frankly.
I wouldn't think it's the rights thing.
Well, and I don't know, to be honest with you, and that might be something that'll have to go to the clerk or the city attorney. Technically, I guess you could ask him if he chose not to answer. He chose not to answer.
Right. Yep.
But that's something on the legality I don't know, but I'll find out, and we can ask him as well. And like I said, and I think, but we can check from Sullivan County, because that's all public record, and anybody can call and ask to see, especially if we're going to forego him having to take the test.
The only other thing I would think of is maybe if it had something to do with bidding, if it, like,
knowing that he can
it
get
sounded like
on a
somebody was
job.
trying to undercut somebody else if they're bidding a job or something like that kind of thing. That's the only thing with that.
Yeah. And then, and I don't think it's because the bidding on the other job that the other gentleman applied for has been closed and contracts have been awarded and everything else. So that is not, I don't know what else, unless it's a corning project
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I need to just check him out, because he, I guess it would only be right that he came in to make sure he was going to be able to get a reciprocal license before he even came in to try to do a job. That would make sense.
Well, and as Mr. Schmidt had done, that's what he did before they bid the job, or before they moved forward. They had tentatively bid it, but they had come to us before they submitted final bids to be able to ask that, hey, are we going to be able to do this? And we initially approved it on the Greene County reciprocal with Sullivan, and then he found out when he was trying to get the copy of the license from Greene County that they'll only reciprocate per job, and that it wasn't going to work. That's why it came back to us.
Right. Okay. Well, at least he did front work, and if that's what this guy's doing, that's good then. Okay.
Okay. So I guess what we want to make a motion then that we'll approve this guy pending investigation from Sullivan County, and if there's a problem, then it'll get tabled to our next meeting.
Sounds good.
I'll make that motion.
I agree with that.
Okay, so motion by Don and second by Brad, was that correct?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Let me see here. There was some other things here in business under testing. There's a few things under testing requirements. One of them was actually part of this. And I spoke with Steve Yearly. The plumbing board was set up similar to this years ago, and they had made a change that basically says there is an exemption to the test, or a reciprocity, whatever you want to call it, that basically says that if somebody comes to us, and somebody on the board or the clerk or something will have to figure that out, has to do basically what I have done and call that municipality and find out what their test requirement is, and make sure that it is at least to our test requirement or greater, that we could give them an exemption from sitting for our test. What is that way we didn't, because we've done this several times, but we have nothing. It was only by past practice we've done it. We've got nothing in our rules. And as opposed to doing past practice, do we want to make this as part of our rule? So and they'll have to come, just like they do now, come before the board and say, hey, this person wants to, so it won't be automatically where it goes to the clerk and the clerk says, okay, no, here you go. It comes to us, and then whomever is delegated does the research work on whomever that is, wherever they're licensed.
Basically, something in writing of what we're doing right now with these other fellas, just so it's in stone. Yes.
So that way we follow the same, and which we have just off of past practice, but we follow the same practice and procedure.
So there's some consistency is what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah, that's correct. What is everybody's feeling?
We just need to put it in writing. Or do they have something basically for the plumbing that we can carbon copy or anything? Sort of. What the requirement is.
I'll look and see what they've got, but we'll see if we come up with something for the next meeting to vote on. We'll see if we draft it, and I guess maybe we'll send it to the city attorney and see if Mr. Merzick has any problem with it. But I don't foresee any problem, and obviously he'll be able to guide us as to whether we need to do anything, terminology-wise with it.
Right.
But that just makes everything that much easier.
And that way it's fair. Everybody feels fair because they see a rule or whatever, a written guidance. So
Exactly.
Somebody doesn't feel like they're getting their laundry aired out and nobody else is, kind of thing.
Yeah, true. Yep.
No, and basically, we've always handled it on a case-to-case basis, and if like certain areas, I know what their test is, and I know it's comparable or exceeds ours, and I've not had a problem, and we were able to ascertain that there wasn't a problem and that they have a current license in that jurisdiction was fine, as long that they weren't under investigation or something else that had major problems. Was fine, and we've always done the case by case basis. As long as you were able to do that stuff, we never had a problem. But like I said, I think it's just best that we put it, like you said, so nobody can ever say that there was any issue, whether it's 10 years down the road or whatever after we're all gone off the board or what. Who knows.
Well, it at least gives you a guideline for everybody. Everybody gets the same guideline. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Bring it. It's a good idea. That way we don't have to think about it. We need the information we need, and we go from there.
Okay. The other thing that the city had brought is our contract with Delhi College is going to be up. And we're possibly looking at other options because it is considerably expensive for us to do this. So what we wanted to do for testing requirements. Do we want to stay with the same program we have and see if we can get somebody to do it for us on city property? I had mentioned, Carrie and I kind of discussed it, to see if we get somebody to put the test on it, say maybe the Armory or something, or City Hall, or the other thing we talked about is, see if you could get somebody who writes the test now at the college. If we get away with the practical, which is, although sometimes the practical is nice, but if you had somebody, pre-do 4 or 5 tests and have an answer key on it, so anybody could come in and request to take the test, the information go to the board, and they could be given the test. We don't have to wait every 6 months. Hey, somebody comes in, okay, so we set up a meeting to review their stuff. That was an option. There's several different options. Although, because when we offer the test, we get, 2 or 3 people. You get lots of people that show interest, and then when it comes time to register, you get 1 or 2 people, or maybe 3, and maybe get lucky, get 4 people, and 2 of them don't show up.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Well,
what
we
do we-
already have
what do
the
we
no
think?
refund thing, right? If you pay to take the test or whatever, and you don't show up, then you're not getting anything back or anything like that, right? So I mean that's just something to help make people say they're going to do something, do it. But
Right. Yeah.
correct. And the thing is obviously with, you know, budget cuts and stuff and whatnot, you know, we pay, I think the city pays like $3,000 to have the test put on each time, no matter how many people we have taking tests, whether it's 1 or 5 people. You know, and Mr. Sinstack, I at one time expressed that he might be interested in writing and offering the tests outside of, you know, the school, and contracting with the city, basically doing the same thing.
what about
So, and I have not.
what about
spoke with him.
BOCES or something?
Well, and that could be an option too. You know, and I think at one time we had spoke when we had a problem when we paired with the college again. I think I want to say somebody may have spoke with BOCES and they said they weren't interested. Not to say that that wouldn't be the case now. But I also don't know what they have for instructors at any of these BOCES programs, if their instructors are of the caliber to be able to give the test, or if it's just they're doing basic, simple.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I don't know. We would have to see what their, you know,
You're
their
talking
abilities
for the
are.
practical. You're talking for the practical application stuff.
Written and practical, you know, to try to, excuse me, set up a test for that, whether we want to do just a written or we want to stay with our written and practical and have it administered by somebody else, you know, to see if we can save some money on the test.
If you just need somebody to practice your test, though, wouldn't you just need somebody that has that sort of training, like?
Well, and there's also a few and there's also a few programs, a few companies that actually do a computerized test that is offered where they go to a testing site and the test taker has to pay like $100 to the company giving the test, and then there would be no cost to the city. We did look at one company several years ago, and we kind of wanted to see how the test was written and how it entailed, and they gave us a really hard time. The one company, which I don't remember the name of, they basically didn't want to share anything with us. It was basically you sign with us, and after then we'll give you a little bit, or you know, we're not going to tell you anything. And at the time, the board was not comfortable with that, because if you basically don't have an idea of how the test is written, or, you know, what's on it, is it a 25 question true or false, you know, test? Or, you know, is there calculations? Is there code questions on it? You know, what is it? And they really would not share with us what their test entailed. And
yeah, I remember that.
They're afraid somebody's going to steal something.
well, I think that was part of it, or, you know, that somebody was going to try to cheat or something, but we felt that it was not in the city's best interest to contract with this company, and we find out after they've entered in the contract that the test was a joke. But there are a few more companies out there, and actually Sullivan County, when I talked to her, they had just signed on with a new company. They've not even had anybody take the test yet, and she was going to get me some information on it. But I also believe Orange County has gone with the same system, which is, I guess, basically recognized nationally in quite a few places, that basically if you've passed this test, a large portion of municipalities will give you a license because it's a highly regarded test. So, I mean, that's something that we can look into as well. I mean, does anybody have any input they want to put on?
Well, if we need to look into something different, we need to get on it and get it figured out. What's that?
We could definitely research stuff. I mean, that's what our timeline is before the contract runs out. If we decide to stick with that.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. The clerk didn't tell me exactly when our contract is up. I don't know if it's up at the first of the year or when, but I think it is currently up. Okay.
Yes.
And either party, I assume, can choose to not renew. So the college could say, we choose not to renew, and then when we offer the test in June, we're here. So it's not going to hurt us to do. Not going to hurt us to do some research to see if they happen to do that. I'm not saying that they are, but if we can find something that's adequate and is going to meet, what we need, and if it's cheaper, then that's great. We'll have to come up with things.
If we can find somebody local, I mean, we could speak to Mr. Sinsnack, see if there's any interest.
If there ended up being some difficulty or something, maybe just to cover our base too, see if Delhi would be willing to do a one-time thing while we're trying to sort stuff out, just for the June test.
And that may be the case. They may do that. And I guess the clerk will check with them. But yeah, I mean, I think we can. Now, do we want to weigh the option as to whether we want to drop the practical part of the test, or do we want to keep it as is because it proves that you have the ability to actually physically do it, not just you read a code book?
The practical shows a little bit of your competency and your neatness and the whole 9 yards. I mean,
yeah, I agree. It doesn't have to get super complicated, but you just see what kind of hands-on the person has.
Yeah.
No, I would.
Even if it's just electrical connections more than maybe bending conduit or something, Electrical connections, I think, would be more important than if the person's got the skill to do it. No, I would tend to agree, and I know a lot of municipalities do not require practical, but I'll be frankly honest with you. I like that the practical was set up years ago here because there's a lot of people that can sit and read a book and take a test, especially if you learn how to use the code book to look for what you want. Once you learn that, it's a little bit easier to answer it. And, people can come in and take the test and really have no physical ability to do it. Yeah. Yep.
And that shows, the practical shows it. So I guess at this point, we'll probably say that we'll see if we can look to incorporate it still, unless it's dire that we don't have it. We're in dire need. We can't do anything without getting rid of it. All right. So I guess I will see what we can come up with for next month on some options to weigh and go from there. Does anybody else have any other new business?
I don't, not that I can think of.
Actually, I do. There was something else that we'd kind of talked, a few people talked about, talking to other municipalities. Most municipalities do not have all the different types of licensing we have. They don't have limited residential. They don't have restricted maintenance and things. Do we want to look to streamline any of this and phase any of this out, or do we want to keep the system that we currently have and leave it alone? What was the feeling from you, gentlemen?
Well, let's see. Does streamlining help the testing any? Yeah, it's a good question.
That might be something to table.
What's that?
That might be something to table a little bit while we're thinking stuff out. I mean, does that take away from our standards and all that? I mean, you guys do the wire nut stuff. I go put the fire out when somebody doesn't do it right, so I don't know that.
Well,
You know what I mean?
and
Donnie sees the end results of it, is for sure.
Well, if you're going to have
exactly.
your guys that are replacing bulbs or going into corning or whatever, maybe pulling a ballast out and putting in LED or something to that effect is one thing. It's that guy that you did for the maintenance work, the outlets, the switches, that kind of thing. All of a sudden he's going in and he's trying to wire a house, maybe on the side or something. Do you want to leave it so that the guy only can do that maintenance at the plant where he's employed, or are you looking?
Well, and that's what
out.
And that's what the limited maintenance
right.
is. Exactly what it is. They can only work, say at a business, or if it was a rental property that has a handful of properties or something, that said person can only work on those properties, and they have to own them, and they have to, take the test and show that they're capable of doing those things. And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad idea, because then you've got maintenance, guys coming, and there's a lot of, and I see it frequently inside and outside the city, outside more than in, but you got guys that are maintenance guys, and they're trying to do electric work, and they're not very competent in electric. At least this way, it kind of gives us an idea who's working on maintenance, in these places, whether it be a Springbrook house or a rental building, or multiple rental buildings, or Corning or Fox Hospital. We have somebody there. They're not allowed to run new circuits. They're only limited basically to basic maintenance, light ballast changes, switch changes, receptacles replaced, the other thing is a limited residential, and whatever, if we do streamline any of these, we would just phase it out. Anybody who's already achieved those would continue them till they either no longer want to do it or retire or whatever, because then we would run into a problem of restriction of trade, I believe. But we would if we phase it out, any of those, we would just not allow new people to do that they would just have to either achieve whatever was kept, or we just keep with what we got.
Right. Anyone who had it, they can continue until they like you said, retire or anything, and anybody else taking it would just have to take the master's license or something.
Correct, or whatever it was, right. It was available.
Right. Whatever. Yeah. Whatever's available. Yes. Okay.
Because I was actually quite surprised talking to a couple different, because I talked with Greene County as well. They don't do apprentice and journeyman. I'll be honest with you. Many years ago, I wasn't necessarily for it, but now who's doing work. It's because basically, and in other places that I've dealt with, it's basically one guy's got a master's license, and he can have 100 guys working on him. You don't know who he is. He's working under that license, and he's supposed to be responsible for all those guys. Is where now we know who's working on those licenses that way. It's not some guy coming off the street and says, "Oh yeah, I work for Joe Schmo, the electrician." Well, let me see your card. If we do away with that, then there's no cards or anything else. So, we run into problems. I think that we had years ago where guys were selling their license, and, what's your pleasure on this? Or is there any more discussion on it, or do we want to table it or act upon it?
On which part of it now?
On any of whether we want to streamline any of it, or we want to make any changes, or do we want to table it and see where we're at with the testing, what's available? Because we may not be able to get testing done if we do like a computerized testing or certain things. They may not offer testing for some of the stuff.
I think
So,
we need
you know,
to
it may not even be.
I think we need to investigate. We should probably.
Yeah, I think we need more information
Yeah.
on what we're gonna do.
Okay.
So
Um,
we can think over it, so we can see if we can come up with some ideas by the next meeting.
okay. So, somebody want to make that a motion that we'll table this streamlining or
Yeah, we'll table
condensing
streamlining
down.
until we can, see what our testing options are going to be here in the near future.
So I'll make a motion, we table
Does
that
sound feasible?
until we get more information on how we're gonna test.
Motion, Brad.
I'll
Second,
second that,
Steve.
Steve.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so moved. All right, we have any old business? And nothing, no old business, and nobody else has any new business. Next meeting will be,
Yeah, got your calendar?
we will be May the 12th, I believe.
Let me see where I'm at.
We have April 12th here. We have that you moved to a bi-monthly. Is that correct?
Oh, okay. Well, that was my mistake. Yes, maybe we did. So we'll say April 12th. I think we did last fall go bi-monthly. You are correct. I apologize. So we'll say April 12th. No, the 12th of April is Tuesday. It would be the 14th.
14th, April 14th.
Tuesday, Thursday,
There is
they're
nothing.
closed.
April 14th.
Tuesday is the 12th.
Yep, so Thursday the
Wednesday's the
14th.
Thursday's the 14th.
Yeah, Thursday 14th. I gotta check. Let me see if I can find, I got a calendar I gotta look at for state fire stuff. Just let me look quick.
Well, you should have an alternate by then, Brad, anyhow, correct?
I'm hoping. I think, I gotta get it brought back to the boss next, officers meeting, but I think, guy that used to work in codes, Chuck Behringer.
Chuck.
He sounded interested.
Okay.
And he's got a little salve for what goes on.
Okay.
Let's see. What did we say? April 14th.
April 14th.
Oh, beautiful. It's on a class night. We'll see. I'll try to push that along so we got an alternate.
Okay. All right. Is there any other business to come before the board? We'll call the meeting. Hearing no other business, we'll call the meeting at 19:47.